Kia ora, hello, and welcome to Anyway, the podcast where I unpack the chaos of reality TV. I am your host, Natalie McMurray, coming to you from Aotearoa, New Zealand. Today, we're discussing the Real Housewives of Rhode Island, episode 12, the season finale. We open with all of the ladies packing for their Block Island trip. Rulla is contemplating whether she should bring her birthday girl captain hat. I'd like to point out that the captain is usually pretty present in their role, which is a lot more than I can say for you in this season, Rulla. You are not the captain of the ship. Leave the hat behind. Alicia is throwing suitcases down staircases. Over at Kelsey's apartment, she's packing and calls Liz. She tells us that Block Island is one of the most beautiful places Rhode Island has to offer. She says she has lots of plans and she wants us to call her Miss Congeniality, which is a bit of a stretch in my opinion. Apparently Liz is going into the trip with peace, and she's hoping Joellen is going the same way. In the morning, we see people arriving at the ferry. When Joellen arrives, she gives Liz a very awkward hug. Liz mocks her in her testimonial, and Joellen says, "My goal is to move on with Liz on this trip." Immediately followed by, "It's like an abusive relationship." Lol, the old, "I want to move on, but that person is an asshole" narrative. So clearly neither of them are going into this trip with peace. They board the boat and head off. We learn that Jared, Ashley's barista husband, gets motion sickness, which comes as a surprise to absolutely no one. He's a toddler after all. Meanwhile, Ashley absolutely thrives in sun and salt water. These two seemingly could not be more opposite. She's pretending to be on the Titanic, which I've never understood why people do that. It's an iconic movie and scene for sure, but we all know how the movie ends. The last thing I want to think about when I'm on a boat is a ship that was deemed unsinkable striking an iceberg in the North Atlantic Ocean, which compromised the ship's hull and caused it to sink, claiming the lives of over 1,500 passengers and crew. I'm thinking about Steamboat Willie, which, believe it or not, is the only movie about a boat I can think of where nothing bad happens on the boat or to the boat. Perhaps it's better just to think about the destination. They arrive after an hour of ferrying. Ashley tells us that Block Island is like the Caribbean to Rhode Islanders. She says they think, why go to Hawaii when you could go to Block Island? First of all, I seriously hope that Ashley knows that Hawaii is not in the Caribbean. Secondly, Block Island looks nothing like the Caribbean or Hawaii to me. But I haven't been to either, so what the fuck do I know? It does look beautiful though, in a very rustic kind of way. Sort of like New Zealand. We see cliffs, wild beaches, a lot of greenery, and it's super windy. They head over to a bar on the beach and grab strawberry daiquiris made in pineapples, which look delicious and very summery. But these people are cold as fuck. Joellen and Liz decide to go for a walk together. They agree that they have a genuine friendship. They don't want to rehash shit. And then guess what happens, you guys? They start talking about the Frank Sinatra Boston night again. So I guess we are rehashing shit. Anyway, they say phrases like, "move on, I want to move on, let's start fresh, let's move on," a bunch of times. And then they hug it out. We move back over to the other ladies. Rulla is telling them that she wants to say thank you for them being there for her this summer. But all I can focus on is what the fuck does Ashley have on her head? She wasn't kidding about thriving in sun, salt, and sand, because she has some kind of makeshift mermaid crown on her head. It looks like a bunch of shells and seaweed, and I'm unsure whether she bought it, whether she already owned it and decided to bring it, or whether she's just rummaged it together with bits and bobs she's found on the beach. If the latter is the case, I'm honestly impressed. It doesn't look high quality, but it is withstanding the wind. Rulla is talking about her situation with Joellen. She says the way that Joellen brought up the cheating allegations at a public event wasn't right. And perhaps she's right about that. But I agree with Rosie that I would want to see everything that's going around. Whereas Rulla just seems to be sticking her head in the ground. Liz and Joellen come back to the group, and they take gummy bear shots, which honestly sound disgusting. Alicia tells us the nightmare that was Billy proposing to her. She was 8 months pregnant and had bronchitis to the point where she couldn't get out of bed. He forced her to get up, And I think she said something about picking up the ring out of a bunch of her clothes. She said yes and then fucked off to have a fudgesicle. This man did this knowing that she's obsessed with fairy tale princesses and shit. That's a massive fail, Billy. Let's ask Rulla if there's anything that she wants to talk to Joellen about. She brings up the video that Joellen showed everyone and says it's no one's business. Unfortunately, Brian is clearly doing this shit where people are taking videos of him. So therefore it becomes public fodder and is pretty much everybody else's business. Plus, these are your friends expressing concern to you. She also says, I just want to handle my story in my own way, which makes it sound like you're manipulating facts so the situation doesn't seem as bad as it is. Rosie, Joellen, and Alicia have gone for a walk, and they're also discussing the Brian cheating on Rulla stuff. Alicia says, I thought he was going to blow his load at the Arabian Nights party. Joellen is all, he was going to come? Alicia's like, no. Like, explode in anger. Joellen wants everybody to know that she's not going to be the fall guy for this. Too late, Joellen. The people arrive at their accommodations. Kelsey says everyone freshen up and they'll meet back for dinner. We see everyone unpacking in their rooms. Both Joellen and Rulla are still blabbing to their husbands about the situation. And I'm just as done with this storyline as both of these men are. Can we move on, please? Too bad for me, it's going to be all they talk about for at least one part of the reunion. Speaking of reunions, I was going to recap the Southern Hospitality reunion, but I got so annoyed with them talking about the Trevor situation, which was very last season. They literally talked about it for a good 20 to 30 minutes. I fucking can't. I did laugh when someone said that Trevor had moved to France to escape the cheating rumors about him, though. Like, who really cares? It's not like you're famous and everyone knows who you are. You had to move halfway around the world? Like, no. No, you didn't. I digress. Bill and Alicia are heading downstairs, and Alicia gets distracted by a mermaid door knocker. Anyway, turns out Alicia is terrified of walking downstairs. I kind of get it. Walking downstairs in heels is scary. You could break your damn ankle. Also, her mum apparently dropped her down a flight of stairs when she was younger. I'm not trying to laugh at that. I'm going to assume it was by accident. So, no wonder she's terrified. They walk down to a lawn with chairs, and Alicia says, "Aw, you did a romantic thing." I want to get into the romance of it all, but I can't stop thinking about this hotel and surrounding area look just like where The Witches from the 90s was filmed. You know the Roald Dahl movie adaptation with Angelica Houston? The place that they're sitting looks kind of like where one of the witches pushes a pram with a baby in it down the hill, which is like the opposite of romantic. That movie terrified me as a child. After that, I was constantly on the lookout for ladies with purple eyes, square toes, and had a look on their face like they'd just smelled dog shit. Anyway, back to Billy and Alicia. They step into a hut made with candles, which has roses and 2 seats in it. Billy is blabbing on about being 2 ships in the night and getting caught up in stuff that's not important, etc. Apparently, I'm not the only one ruining the romance because Rosie in her see-through pink lace pants is leaning out the window and trying to catcall him. Billy is now saying something about having good times, bad times, scary times, and kicking cans down the road. And I'm like, get to the point, Bill. None of us are getting any younger with this speech. Alicia is telling him how much she appreciates the romantic gesture, until he tries to take her engagement ring off and damn near rips her ring finger off. He gets down on his knee and proposes again. A waiter comes over and brings champagne, and Alicia can't help herself but to tell this random man that Billy never proposed properly to her the first time. Alicia is hilarious. She also says, I feel like we're destined to be together. That's why I've always stuck around. Because, you know, a lot of other guys like me. Alicia is now planning her perfect white wedding and mermaid dress. I guess she was inspired by that door knocker. Everyone is congregating in the bar area and congratulating Billy and Alicia. Meanwhile, we see Joellen heading up to Rulla's room. Joellen says she wants to clear the air and that she's not trying to overstep. Rulla says that when she was on her deathbed, Joellen was going around showing everyone this video. Joellen says, you wanted proof, I got your proof. Rulla doesn't want to see it. She still thinks it's fake. Downstairs, Brian and Gary are talking about the video. Brian says, yeah, I know I fucked up, you know? He then says, I don't know if it was middle age or hormones, inferring that it could have been a hormone imbalance, I assume. A woman's menstrual cycle causes hormone levels to rise and fall dramatically. More dramatically than men's, anyway. So if an imbalance were the case, there would be way more women cheating than men. Instead of blaming your shitty actions on your hormones, how about just blame them on you being a dickhead? Joanne apologizes to Rulla and tells her that she won't bring it up again. They then hug it out. Brian admits that the video is real. After their chat, Gary goes back to the bar and tells everyone so. Alicia wants to know why he admitted it. Probably because the video exists and a lot of people have now seen it. I'm not really sure how he could deny it. They all then head outside to have dinner. And it's cold and windy. Kelsey has brought a box to dinner. She says it's called Clamshell Confessionals, which is apparently like the Newlywed Game, which Ashley is psyched about. Very on par for her. Joellen goes first and says, "Who's the most likely to have a safe word?" The people all say, Joellen. Liz reads the question, "What's something you've never told this group but probably should?" She wonders who she should direct the question to. All the ladies say, Brian. Hello. Everyone wants you to say Brian. No, she gives it to the most boring person at the table, Jared the barista. He starts wanking on about Rhode Island. I have no idea how that answers the question. And also, I genuinely don't care. Rulla reads out her question. She says, "What's the most embarrassing thing your partner has done in public?" Alicia says, "Oh, bitch. That's God. That's God right there." Kelsey interjects and says, "You don't have to ask your spouse." Kelsey! What? So Rulla gives the question to Gary. Gary says, "Joellen doesn't really do anything embarrassing." Which we all know probably isn't true, but Gary wins the Best Husband Award on this show. Kelsey reads the question, "Is there one person who will stab you in the back and smile in your face?" She asks Rulla to answer. Rulla says earlier this summer she would have said Joellen, but they've built a bridge. She now doesn't think anyone fits that description. Probably your husband. Your husband fits that description. Now Brian is giving a speech. Why are we letting this man speak? Ugh. He says something about people making them the most popular. And Joellen is like, "Are you delusional?" Which is exactly what I'm thinking. Now Rulla is giving a speech. She breaks down and starts crying. She says, "You never know what will creep up and hit you in the face." And Liz says, "It hit you in the face again and again and again and again." Alicia says Joellen was trying to have Rulla's back. Rosie says, "I just want to point out that this is not Joellen's fault and that Brian is the problem here." Brian is drunk and mumbling about Rulla putting her ego and pride aside for him or some weird shit. Liz tells us that she doesn't think what Brian has done is grounds for divorce for Rulla. Alicia is saying, "This shit is done. It's been put to bed and put in the ocean and is drowned." Maybe she means it's dead in the water? Everyone's cracking up at her. At the end of the dinner, everyone is kumbayaing and giving speeches. We then get updates of where all the ladies are at. Rosie's house and friendship with Kelsey are both under construction. Joellen is working on a relationship with her mum and still talks to Brian's mistress. Liz is getting high off her own supply and having a granddaughter. Kelsey is learning to write her own checks. Ashley continues to deal with the money-sucking leech that is Audrey's. Alicia is taking creative control at Pizza Mama's and working on her own line of crackers. Rulla forgave Brian and wanted to close that chapter, but dun dun dun! 1 month later. Brian is accused of domestic violence and placing a tracking device on Rulla's car. Woof. We cut to a scene over at Rulla's house. Rosie and Ashley pull up in Rosie's hideous pink Jeep, and Alicia and Kelsey arrive. We also see Joellen arriving at Liz's place. They're all right, bitch, let's gossip. Alicia wants to know what the fuck happened. Rulla says the story has been sensationalized. She says Brian was arrested for tracking her, which apparently falls under domestic violence in the state of Rhode Island because it's stalking. Rulla was suspicious that he was tracking her. She went to BMW, but they apparently couldn't check, so she had to go to the police. Rulla says to the ladies that she's told Brian to seek help to figure out why all of this is happening. Kelsey wants to know if Rulla can find any part of her heart to thank Joellen for bringing these issues to the forefront. In Joellen's testimonial, she tells us that the mistress apparently picked up Brian from jail. Rulla does not want to thank Joellen. She's saying that she doesn't want to downplay anything, which is exactly what she's doing. She's still defending this asshole who was stalking her. I don't know where she's at the moment. I think I heard that they were getting a divorce, which I seriously hope is the case. She apparently asked him why he was tracking her. He danced around it. She questions whether it was because he wanted to know when she would be back, or apparently driving past the other woman's house. Ultimately, it doesn't fucking matter why. It's illegal. And it's creepy as fuck. Anyway, we have a 2-part reunion coming up, so perhaps we'll find out more. Or perhaps Brian and Rulla will continue their reign of denial and silence. Who knows? That's it for today. I'll be back later in the week. Thanks for listening. See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya.